There's something to be said about movies from the 30s and the 40s. These were the times when they had some of the most groundbreaking effects in movies of all time. Movies such as Dracula, Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, etc. And by far one of the greatest effects put in a movie was King Kong. These effects were some of the most impressive at the time, and to be honest, I'm still kind of impressed with them. Although, I gotta admit, thinking back, this is probably one of the dumbest ideas of all time. A giant ape from an island full of dinosaurs falls in love with a girl and, well, that's about it. Connection? Although I will admit, I did really have to admire how creative they had to get with their effects. I mean, sometimes it would be in stop motion, sometimes it would be green screen, sometimes they would be combining footage, sometimes they would literally build a giant Kong. And sometimes they would actually have the cast take still pictures with the stop motion Kong and animate them together. Bottom line, they had to get really creative, and I'd say it turned out fairly well. I guess there's no other way to talk about the movie except to start from the beginning. It focuses around a movie director, Carl Denham, who's kind of like Ed Wood. He's making fairly bad movies and wasting everyone's money despite such creative ideas. So for his last resort, he goes to a place called Skull Island with Jack Driscoll, who's his main actor, and an out-of-work actress, Ann Darrow. But then things start to go haywire when their crew gets attacked by dinosaurs and a native tribe. They kidnap Ann and offer as a sacrifice to their great beast, King Kong. Although instead of killing her, Kong actually falls in love with her. While the group searches for Ann forms some sort of a strange bond with the beast, and as he takes her back to the ship, the entire crew knocks him out and takes him back to New York City. They display Kong in front of an audience, but then he breaks out and goes on a rampage throughout the city. He steals back Ann and then climbs the Empire State Building, leading to one of the most iconic movie climaxes in all of cinematic history. Now, with all the praise I gave for the old one, you're probably wondering what I think of the remake that Peter Jackson did back in 2005. Well, I will say this, I do like this remake better than the other remakes that have been attempted over the years, but there are its share of problems too. Number one, everything is in CGI, but then of course everything is CGI nowadays. But the thing is, it just doesn't have that same creative feel as the original. When I think of creative CGI, I think of a subhuman like the Golem or the Headless Horseman, or something stylized like Sin City or Across the Universe. Number 2, Adrien Brody playing Jack Driscoll. I am sorry, but this guy is just flat out boring. I mean, I understand they were trying to downplay the hero as an ordinary guy, but at least you could make him an interesting ordinary guy. Number 3, the boat scenes. A good hour or so of this movie is spent on the boat. I mean, nothing there really happens. I can understand what they were doing. They were going by the Jaws cliche where they wait an hour before they show the monster, but they did it to the point of where it was annoying and tedious. Plus, nothing really interesting happens on the boat. I mean, who's gonna keep the audience entertained? Adrien Brody? And finally, number 4. I really have to ask this. Did they really have to do the King Kong on ice bit? How on earth are we supposed to take that seriously? Now, with all I've said, you probably think I hate this remake, right? Well, no, I don't. I was able to sit through it 3 times actually, which says a lot for me. What I was doing was called nitpicking. You know, like that thing everyone did when everyone was complaining when Spider-Man posed in front of the American flag? Or on Star Wars when they displayed a very certain racially insensitive alien? And need we forget everyone's favorite scene from Indiana Jones 4? Anyway, with all that I've said, there are some redeeming qualities worth mentioning. They still get some more new interesting characters besides Brody, like Hayes or the Cutthroat Cook. We get a lot more backstory, and we get to spend more time with Kong, and we see him more as a 3-dimensional character. And I will be honest, while the CGI does get in the way a lot, it is good to see King Kong, such a cult classic, being remade with such passion. Looking at the movie as a whole, I did enjoy it, but if I were to really choose which one was better, I'd have to choose the original. As for why, well, it kinda comes down to more the way they portray Kong. Most animals have fairly blank expressions. We're never really able to tell what they're thinking, whether or not they're happy or sad. The Peter Jackson King Kong's face is actually modeled after a real actor, so it's a lot easier to tell what he's thinking and what's going through his head. And while the new King Kong looks more like an animal and moves like one, the old one acts more and behaves more like a real animal. So when they finally take him to New York, it literally feels like they just took some creature out of its habitat. He literally looks like just some poor, dumb, helpless creature. I mean, look at that stupid expression. I feel bad for him before the bad stuff really starts to happen. So that's my reason, and I'm sticking to it. Because in the end, I feel more sorry for the more helpless creature. So in conclusion, to me, I think this is one of the greatest movies of all time, for its creative effects, good actors, and well-written story. As you get older and in high school and college, teachers try to shove down your throat that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie of all time. So I really have to ask, when can King Kong be the best? This is Jack saying, think for yourself.